Let's go across to our experts joining us. Ashok Sajjanhar is former Indian diplomat. Professor AR Daudi is a Middle East expert. Amitabh Sinha, senior lawyer, is also joining us. And I'm also joined with Swasti Rao, associate fellow of the MP-IDSA. Swasti, let me begin with you. While nobody will accept it in clear terms, but there is a suspicion that this recent Israel conflict and India's very open stance supporting Israel's right to defend itself against a terrorist organization like Hamas may have something to do with this very strict penalty, a death penalty that has been awarded to 8 ex-Indian Navy officials. Would you say there is credence to this?
Well, a very good evening to you, Shivani, and a good evening to all the other panelists as well. To your question, if this has anything to do with India's stand on the current crisis in West Asia, I think this is not how the world of diplomacy really works. I mean, I would not rule it out completely. I would say that if I were to prepare a list of reasons as to what may have happened, because let's also understand that the kind of the kind of situation that is there is also pertaining to a very top, very highly secretive, submarine program.
Yes.
And I go into the details because for sure I don't cover Qatar directly, but I cover Europe, and I know that the Italians have been there in Qatar, and the midget submarine program, which is a highly secretive submarine program, has been in the offing for many years now, and it's a multi-billion-dollar program. And also understand that Qatar was one of the first countries in the Gulf to actually start acquiring submarines, because UAE and Saudi Arabia don't really have submarines right now. So what I'm trying to tell you is that it is also the very nature of the program that we are discussing that is extremely secretive. Understand that submarines, these submarines, the midget submarines, are military submarines, not just any submarines, and they also come with stealth capabilities, right? So because of this entire nature, which is extremely enigmatic and mysterious, it also lends a further complication to what was happening. Now, that said, we right now do not know as to what really were the charges on these former 8 Navy officers, right? So, I mean, I would be very careful in saying that they are treated the way they are treated because of what is going on in the Middle East.
Okay. No, but the reason why I asked you this question is also precisely this. We don't really know the nature of the charges. I understand they are related to national security and top secret military programs, and of course any government would take that very seriously. But with a friendly nation, you would possibly expect a little bit more dissemination of information and some sort of greater access to their citizens, especially those who have been ex-armed officials. So given that we don't really know much, and clearly New Delhi was surprised and shocked by this verdict, does that lend you to believe that maybe this is some sort of shadow boxing taking place?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, it's very distasteful. I mean, I'm not at all disagreeing from the fact that it's extremely distasteful. And that is the reason behind India's official shock. Because, if you look into the details of how these 8 officers, they are not just anybody, they are retired officers who have served in the Navy for at least 20 years. They were also instructors. They were picked up from their dwellings in the dead of the night. So all these things also indicate at a very distasteful way, the entire thing has been carried out. So perhaps, somebody from the diplomatic services like Ambassador Sajjanhar would tell you the nitty-gritty of what diplomacy should be, what kind of diplomacy should be expected or should be responded with. But as a common citizen also, I mean, I'm extremely shocked at the way this entire thing has come. And then, considering that Qatar has been one of the top LNG suppliers to India recently. Yes. So, I mean, you don't really expect that. And in my opinion, I think that is something that we would take very, very seriously, regardless of whatever is happening in West Asia. But that is just not the way you would expect a modern state to behave with another friendly state. I mean, what is it, Canada number 2 or maybe worse than that? So this is something which is very, very bothersome, and I totally agree that we should really, rebut it in the strongest possible manner.
Yeah. Okay, let me also go across to Mr. Daudi. I want to understand from his perspective as well. How is he looking at it? Is there credence to the suspicion that this could have something to do with the Israel conflict as well? Or is this purely a military espionage, suspected spying activity matter, which the Qataris have taken very, very seriously? But in this case, as I said, they haven't really seemed to have kept their Indian counterparts in good stead or in proper light. So how do you read the situation, Professor Daudi?
Well, Shivani, what I have to say, there are speculations and different narratives. At the same time, there are perspectives. And everyone has his or her own rights to talk about that. I can't agree more with Dr. Swasti when she said that it has no connection with the, Israel and India's stand.
Okay.
When they say that India supports Israel and that's the reason they are going to do something of this sort. So there are many other aspects that one should understand before we comment on these sensitive and serious issues. When the international communities, different countries, they are having a proper eyes on this. You know why? Because India has emerged as one of the world leaders, and we know that if you give these kinds of a verdict against 8 ex-naval officers in a different country, then the consequences could be really the worst if they cannot prove it. So what I think that we should first try to understand what exactly is the verdict and what are the things that's happening between these two countries. I'm sure our government and Delhi and the MEA, they have been trying to get some sort of proper documentation, and they are working on finding a solution, but so far
Okay.
they are
Mr.
short
Daudi,
because
from
they
what I
are
did understand from what you're trying to say is that this will act as some sort of a problem as far as the Qatar-India relationship is concerned. This judgment of death penalty against eight ex-Indian Navy officials, that this will sour the relationship?
I think, when you look at the word, it says India says that we are shocked. It means that they expected something better and they are working on this. And when they are shocked, it means that there could be some sort of, relationship will be shaken. I'm sure about that. But the kind of relation that India shares with most of the Arab countries, especially with Qatar, more than 20%, 22% Indians live there, and we have trade and business as well.